nose is itching. Hey.
Welcome back.
It's been forever and a day.
I know. Thanks to the flu.
The flu. Something else happened, right? There was a lot of sickness.
So much sickness.
And then you did Christmas, and then there was something else. There was another reason why I needed to push it off. I don't remember what.
We just kept having to push it off because Thomas was sick.
Yeah, we pushed it off a couple times.
You were sick, right? You weren't feeling good there.
That's right. I had to skip one time because I got sick first.
Yeah.
And then Thomas got sick, and then your kiddos passed around the sickness.
Yes.
And then
Silas's eardrum burst.
Blood everywhere.
It was like a crime scene. And then Thomas was sick.
For a long time. He was throwing up for days.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to die because he was not eating anything, and he was barely drinking. I was like, you're going to dehydrate.
Yeah. So it was been a rough last few weeks, but we're here.
It took a while, but we made it.
Yay, we're here. We're back. So we're going to record our two episodes tonight, and then hopefully we'll catch up by the end of the week.
Yeah, 2 today, 3 next time, and then 2 more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Then we should be caught up for the end of the year because we are going on vacation. Yes.
Gonna get me a wand.
Butterbeer.
Butterbeer's meh. I'm there for the wand and the cape. Thank you.
You're meh.
Thomas didn't like it, if that makes you feel any better.
Well, he's super meh.
Have you met him? He eats like 3 things.
I had a coworker ask if we were bringing back a butterbeer. I was like, well, I don't know if we can get it back because they're so delicious.
You can. Where was I?
Bookland has like mix.
I think it was Bookland. Because I was there over the weekend. They actually have bottles now. That's literally just, you can buy like a 4-pack of already made butterbeer in glass bottles.
Interesting.
So.
I saw a TikTok recipe too. Anyway, I'm so freaking excited.
I'm not going there for that.
12 days.
13.
It's almost over. 12 days and 3 hours. Lame. Anyway, we're here. We're back. Woohoo! I'm Caitlin.
I'm Sarah.
And this is Books, Booze,
and Besties.
Yeah. We're back, Jack. On this episode, we are covering Heartbones
by Coho.
Yeah. We're going to wrap up our Coho tonight.
Why are you saying it with gritted teeth?
I don't know. Am I?
It's because you didn't like Heartbones, and we're about to have a big old convo about it.
About to dive right in.
If you guys don't know what Heartbones is, it's fair because it's one of Coho's lesser-known books. I'll give you a quick descript, if you will. You got 2 main characters, Bea and Samson. Bea comes from a life of poverty and neglect. Samson comes from a family of wealth. When the two find themselves spending the summer as neighbors, they soon realize money is one of the few things they don't have in common. Their bond is too intense to ignore, but with only 10 weeks separating them from the start of their new lives, on opposite ends of the country, Bea and Samson decide to stay in the shallow end of a summer fling. What they don't realize is that a rip current is coming and it's about to drag both their hearts out to sea.
Jesus. That's intense. It's
also kind of cliche.
Yeah. That's a very corny intro. Or like a
Rip.
synopsis.
Who says rip current? Like, who says that? A wave, you mean? Waves about to come out and get them?
Waves are coming, son. I don't know. That was super corny. I didn't like it.
So before we hop in discussing this, let's, get back on our soapbox about Coho and her weird-ass names.
Okay.
Bea. So we got Bea, we got Fallon,
Samson was okay. Oh, well, I liked Samson. But
No,
yeah,
Samson is
Fallon.
fine, but like Bea, Fallon, Lowen, it's like all the girl Verity. It's like all the girl names are the ones that are off,
Yeah.
and then you have like Jeremy, Samson, Marcus.
Yeah.
Well, there was Ben James Kessler, but he went by Ben.
Ben. But I mean, I liked Fallon though. I thought that was a unique name.
No, some of them are alright, but then you have
Yeah.
names like Bea, and that just sounds.
Bea, and then what's the one name in Reminders of Him? A Diem.
Yeah, because they wanted to remember Carpe Diem.
Fucking hated it.
Listen,
made me so angry.
Obviously I'm stereotyping here, and it's fine. Hate on me if you want, but if the whole synopsis of Bea is that she came from a white trash town in Kentucky and her name is Bea, that's exactly the name she would have if she came from a white trash town in Kentucky.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
So let's hop into.
Also, that was kind of rude of Coho to be like, "Here's this white trash girl from
Kentucky." I know. I listened to this podcast recently, and it's kind of a tangent.
Wait, our podcast is kind of a tangent?
No, I listen to a podcast, not our podcast. I do listen to ours, though. And it's a true crime podcast, and I just recently discovered it, and it's okay. I won't name names here. I'll tell you off air. And they have done 2 cases where they're from Kentucky, and they basically were like, so in this one, there happens to be like a couch on the front porch, and they're like, I guess that's probably pretty normal in Kentucky, is having a couch on your, like a rundown couch on your front porch. And I was like, the fuck?
Where I grew up, it was on the back porch, thank you. Didn't want our neighbors to see it.
I was like...
And it was a recliner, not a couch. Next to our deep freeze.
Well, then there was another episode in Kentucky, and they were like, they were like, I'm really surprised, though. They live in Kentucky, and they were having, like, steak and asparagus for dinner. They legit, I was like...
That's rude as hell.
I know. Two different episodes. I
fucking love some asparagus, dude.
I love steak. Steak and asparagus. I mean, we eat our veggies. We fucking grow them here. Guess what?
Fucking got them.
I know. Like, they were like, I don't know if that's normal for, like, Kentucky to have, like, steak and asparagus for dinner.
Wow, I bet these podcasters get so much hate because people are probably in the comments like, wow, you all are bigoted.
Right? They're from California. So.
Well, regardless of where you're at, the first thing that comes to your mind should not be, oh, they're in Kentucky. They don't know what vegetables are. Or meat. What do we eat? Potatoes?
They're so poor.
We just eat taters.
And we got rundown couches on our front porch.
We eat beans and taters, nothing else.
Yeah, they're like, I guess it's pretty normal, though, to have, like, in Kentucky, to have, like, just, like, a raggedy couch on the porch.
No, we have patio furniture like everyone else.
I was like, we're just not, like, living in the slums. Everybody's not living in the slums in Kentucky. Living in poor eastern Kentucky, Appalachia, or whatever. I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, tangent over.
Well, now I'm going to go on a tangent. Speaking of Kentucky, did you know that there have been 42 murders in Lexington this year alone, and 17 are still unsolved?
Ooh, you think it's a serial killer?
I don't know. I didn't go into specifics. I just read the news headline. But for 2022, we're at 42 deaths and 17 unsolved.
I'm surprised. Lexington's really turned into, like, Murder U.
I used to live there.
I know.
I could have been killed. I could have been killed.
You could have been a subject of a podcast. Hopefully not that one.
I'd rather be a part of a paranormal podcast and not a true crime. I think.
Like, killed by ghosts?
Just seeing them.
Oh, okay. Anyway. So, yeah. Anyway, so I guess everyone just who's, like, in other states thinks we just live in the slums of
That's
Appalachia.
so rude because West Virginia is more poverty-stricken than we are, more rural. And, like, I'm not going to sit here and say, I bet they got couches on their porches because that's just not something I think of when I think of poverty. So
They got washing machines that don't even work sitting outside in their front yard.
That's just...
It's rude.
I don't even know
I was
what
offended. I stopped listening after the second, rude thing. I was like, okay, I think I'm done with this now.
Yeah, that was
I'm
a little
not gonna
much.
give them any more attention because they're assholes.
Even if they were unintentionally being an asshole, they should probably, like reevaluate a little bit.
Right. Anyway, so we start here, Heartbones, in Kentucky.
In Kentucky for a brief,
Yeah.
2 hours, 3?
Yeah, just a couple. Bea walks in and finds her junkie mom dead.
Okay, can we also talk about how the one job they give Bea as a high school student is working at McDonald's?
I know, except I worked at McDonald's as a high school student.
I mean, I worked at Zaxby's. Like, I'm not saying you don't work fast food, but I'm just saying, like, it felt like Coho, and she was still, like, this was newer in her career as an author, but I feel like she was just picking stereotypes.
Yeah.
For Bea, because it was a girl that works at McDonald's, lives in a trailer park, junkie mom.
Yeah.
Like,
not going anywhere in life. Well, except she was going somewhere. She was going to Penn State.
But nobody thought she was going anywhere in life. Like,
Yeah.
even the sheriff was like, you can do better than this.
Yeah, and she's like, bro, I have a full ride to Penn State.
And then they even throw in stuff like her doing sexual acts for money. Like, it's
hated
literally
so
every
much.
it was literally every stereotype that it could have been.
Yeah.
For this character.
Yeah. I hated that so much. Hated it. I don't even know what to say because I hated that so much. Anyway, so yeah, she walks in and finds her junkie mom OD'd.
On the couch.
On the couch.
In front of
that couch probably was on the front porch at some point.
In front of Mother Teresa, except in the audiobook, the lady kept calling it Mother Teresa, or I don't even remember. It was not Teresa. It was.
Did I listen to it? I think I did.
She didn't say Mother Teresa. She said Mother Teresa or Teresa. It was something weird.
Oh. And we're like, no. Teresa? Is that you? So yeah, she finds mom
Mom's
dead.
spaghetti.
She finds her mother dead.
She finds her mom arms weak, knees spaghetti.
It's been so long.
Oh God. Overdosing is not a joke, but mom's spaghetti is.
Okay, Eminem. Marshall
He also
Mathers.
grew up in a trailer park, and he walked 8 miles.
Not in Kentucky. Where did he grow up? I don't even know.
I don't know. Eminem grew up somewhere urban. It wasn't rural. It was like on the outskirts of a big city.
Like Chicago
Mm-hmm.
or something. Anyway, we're not gonna make it anywhere tonight. We're struggling, y'all. It's been a minute.
I can't help it. I got the good jokes tonight.
I know. She's been telling all kinds of dad jokes. Anyway, I can't even think. So we'll just go. Like, what did you like this book?
So, and I could tell the first time we kind of talked about it after you finished it, you did not. And I'm not saying that I loved it, like it's no November 9th. But it was decent. I think it was all right.
Okay, it was all right. It was very young adult.
Yeah, it's like it was a young adult book that included stuff to try to make it more adult.
Yeah.
Like adding in the sexual acts or her getting a job and then jumping ahead in the future for her to be a lawyer. And
yeah. I just, and I knew he was fucking homeless, okay? I knew that something wasn't right there.
I mean, I knew something was up too. Like, I don't know. I probably assumed he was homeless too. I don't really remember, but I mean, it's pretty obvious if he won't tell you anything. Like, he's not that dark and mysterious. He's literally 18 years old. They don't know what they're doing.
Right.
He's not.
Yeah. And the whole thing with his dad, what was his dad's name?
Rake.
Yeah, that whole thing was weird.
Well, and like the way he talked about his parents is he acted like he hated them. He acted like he hated his dad, didn't really talk about his mom, which makes sense because mom left and his dad raised him. But like, there was a brief moment. There was a brief moment where he talks about it. And he just talks about it in a way like he hates his dad and doesn't want to talk about his mom. When in reality, in literally one of his dad's poems, it talks about Samson's mom leaving him after he was born and raising him by himself. So, I mean, about the only thing I could blame Samson for being mad at his dad for would be, 1, being raised on a boat, and 2, choosing the boat over him at the hurricane. But still.
How they just, like, stumbled upon his body.
Oh, yeah, that was the biggest coincidence of them all.
I know.
8 years later, and you just, a random-ass dog finds a dead body's, or it was a skeleton at that point.
It. Yeah, you recognize, I guess, the clothes.
It wasn't even the clothes. It was a scrap of a flannel shirt. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's my dad.
Like, what the fuck?
You take Bea on one date, and you end up digging up your dead dad.
Yeah.
How rude. You didn't even let her stay for that part.
I know. You made her get. You're like, you're from Kentucky. Get. So, yeah, that to me was just like...
Also...
Didn't hit. I don't know.
Like, you and I worked with the system for many years. His dad died when he was like 12, 13.
Yeah.
He couldn't have survived on his own without getting picked up by someone in 5 years. Like, you don't just float around, especially in a town that literally was devastated by a hurricane. How did you even get out of there? 1, where'd you go, and how did you survive? Because you couldn't start cutting grass at 12 years old and survive for 5 or 6 years.
Right.
That's not how that works.
No.
You would have been picked up by somebody.
I agree. Like, he just had nobody. And, like, they were, those people were supposed to be, like, his friends and whatnot. So that's why I kind of was, like, stuck. Like, I was like, is he homeless? Like, they're his friends.
And then you find out that they've only known each other since spring break, even Sarah and Marcus. And she's literally talking about getting married.
We're going to get married.
They've known each other for 3 months.
Yeah.
And not even a full 3 months because they went back to school after spring break and now it's summer break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Sarah was like stage 5 clinger.
Well, she's obviously got some daddy issues.
Yeah, and the whole thing with, like, her in the beginning where she's, like, talking about how skinny Bea is, and then she's, like, watching her eat the very first day they meet.
It's like Coho is like, what's traumatic? I'm going to add every single thing I could possibly think of that's trauma-related into this one story.
Parents with substance abuse problems, finding my mother dead.
Absent parent.
Prostitution.
Divorce.
Eating disorder.
Homelessness.
Dying parents. Yeah.
Literally all of it. I mean, like, you've got all of it.
She's like, what can I do to ruin this reader's day? And then she included everything she thought she could include to be, like, the middle finger.
I mean, like, it never ended. It was like, Bea and Samson are finally in a good spot. So she's like, oh, yeah, I used to basically have to sell my body so I could afford...
dick for coke.
I used to,
for cash. Sorry, not coke.
I used to sell my body for sexual acts in order to get money because, I had to eat.
Yeah.
And then you have her dad over here who's loaded enough to pay her tuition and shit and didn't even know, like...
How does he not know in the summertime that his daughter's been neglected so severely?
Because he just stopped contact, like, 3 or 4 years before this part in the story. But also, like, he was mad at her at one point and was like, why didn't you tell me? And she had to be like, because I was a child and you're my father. It's not my job to tell you.
Right. Yeah. And he was just, like, stunned. But I'm like, there are signs of neglect.
The fact that she stopped talking to you.
Right. And
the fact that her mom was constantly asking for money for something else. The fact that you literally bought Bea a brand new phone and she didn't even reach out to say thank you or something.
Yeah.
Or why wait until now to get me a phone? Something.
Yeah.
Red flags all around. And then you let your daughter go for 3 years without ever talking to her because she dodged your calls at McDonald's because she didn't have a fucking home phone.
Well, and said she was eating, like, stuffing out of the couch.
Yeah.
So
her mom abandoned her for like 3 days one time.
Yeah.
No food in the house. She ate eggshells, banana peels, and couch stuffing.
Yeah. So there's got to be signs of malnutrition.
She was also almost she was sexually assaulted, almost sexually abused by her mom's boyfriend when she was like 8.
Yeah.
He smacked the shit out of her.
Yeah. So.
And then she didn't even get to eat because that's all they had left, and it got thrown in the floor.
Yeah. So how do you not notice, you know?
Well, and, like, the thing, I was talking about the system earlier. Bea kept saying, well, we fell through the cracks. Mom never got our food stamps and stuff. I don't see how CPS was never involved because she would have been malnourished.
Yes, severely. And if she was going to school like she said she was, people would have noticed.
Well, the sheriff even said, what happens if you stay here? You can do so much better if you get out. Like, he himself knew what was going on and didn't fucking get her help.
Right.
But let his son fuck her for money.
Right. Oh, yeah. That was his son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, that just blew my mind, like, that he didn't, and she spent whole summers with him.
Until she was, like, 15, and then she just stopped because, what was the point? She had to go back home to an abusive situation, and nothing ever changed.
Right.
And her dad was too dumb or didn't care enough to notice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not her job to say, hey, be my dad.
Yeah. Like, he should have... yeah, there are signs. Like, when he picked her up, she was probably starving. And...
I mean, when he got her at the airport after her mom's death, she had a hole in her dress. She had no luggage. The dress...
Which she lied about the luggage. But yeah, he should have known.
I mean, it's not hard to figure out the truth if you go up to the flight attendant or the receptionist and she's like, oh, there was no luggage checked in with this ticket.
Yeah. And it's like, suspicious.
Like, the dress she had on was worn out. She later finds out from Sarah there's a hole in it and has been. Her sandals, or her flip-flops, she's been wearing for 3 years.
Yeah. There are signs, man.
She'd only eaten once in, like, 36 hours by the time she got to her dad.
Yeah. And she...
Also, how did she survive playing volleyball for 5 years? Like, she said at one point they made sure she got enough to eat to be able to play, but still, like, you're working at McDonald's, you're going to high school, and you're playing volleyball. How are you, like... How are you not malnourished?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I did not understand that either.
Also, she didn't play volleyball for like 8 weeks.
I know.
And then she was like, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm so out of shape. I'm not used to playing volleyball. Girl, you don't get that out of shape in 8 weeks. That ain't how that works.
Yeah, she said she like didn't work out or anything, but still, yeah, 8 weeks. That would take like a year.
I don't know. It's like this book, and don't get me wrong, it was a good book, and I like that a lot of issues are brought up, because some were handled the right way. Like Bea overcame her eating disorder, well, it was really Sarah overcoming her eating disorder, and Bea.
But the very first day.
And Bea, like getting to a better situation, but then it never addressed the other things like, hey, my dad fucked me over for 18 years, or my mom was a drug addict and, nobody helped me, or...
What annoyed me, though, with Bea was that it was always like, your problems can't be as big as mine.
Oh, yeah. No.
That drove me freaking crazy. Like, anybody that said anything, she was like, you have no idea what it's like. And it's like, well, I mean,
I might not, but my problems are still relevant.
Valid. Yeah. And that drove me crazy. It was like, anything you can do, I can be worse.
Like, she's allowed to have those feelings. She's allowed to talk about her trauma, but never compare trauma.
Nope.
Never compete.
Nope.
Because even if you think what you had was worse and someone else agrees with you, then what have you got? 2 sad people.
Yeah.
And no improvement.
It just drove me crazy. It was like nobody could say anything or do anything to where she wasn't like, you don't know how it is. You're nothing like what you've not experienced anything like I've experienced. You've not been that bad off. And it was just like, you know what? They're suffering too. May
Well,
not be the same, but they're still suffering or they still have trauma.
she didn't even know what they'd been through. She met Sarah, found out Sarah was now living with rich parents and had her, you know, preconceived notion about her. That was it. She didn't want to know Sarah. She didn't try to get to know Sarah. She wanted Sarah to listen to her problems and stop there, but...
Yeah. It was like nobody's feelings were valid but hers.
And everybody in this book needed fucking therapy, except for maybe Marcus. But, like, why didn't they get Bea some therapy? She literally saw her mom dead. She was abused, neglected.
Yeah.
Anything you can list happened. Her and dad needed some family therapy. How you gonna just go live with this person's practically a stranger and let him take care of you?
It was really weird. And then he's just like, yeah, I'll send you a ticket. No questions asked. Which is fine. I'm glad, you know, at least obviously he wanted to do that for her. But it was like, at no point was he like, hey, so what prompted you to want to visit? Like, I'm happy you're here. I'm just curious.
Well,
Never, ever did he say anything.
Well, and, like, Sarah needed fucking therapy for, you know, her eating disorder, and it sounded like she had a little bit of daddy issues because, you know, obviously don't compare trauma histories and stuff, but Bea mentioned one time that her dad was kind of shitty, and Sarah immediately was like, but I've never experienced him like that. He's always been super duper good to me. Yeah. So, like, she kind of did it back in that moment.
True.
But then thinking about that, it reminded me of something that didn't make sense in the beginning of the story. So the landlord comes in and sees, you know, the situation with Bea and her mom. And he's like, well, why don't you call your dad? He's been paying rent on this trailer since, you know, you were born. Like, obviously he's got money. And then she's like, how much time do I have? And he's like, none. You're 3 months behind on rent.
Yeah.
So is her dad paying or not?
Yeah, but her mom was spending it.
Okay, but dad was directly paying the rent for this trailer to the landlord. And then magically 3 months behind. Because he was like, yeah, your dad's always paid rent on the trailer. It was always good. He's obviously got money. And then later she's like, okay, how long do I have before I have to leave? And he's like, right now, because, you know, you're 3 months behind on rent. How does that
continuity work? Error.
Make it make sense for me.
That's true. I don't think I've paid attention to that.
I like to be picky.
We know.
Happens.
No, yeah. And he was just like, nah, get the fuck out. Yeah, it's like, I can probably call my dad and be like, hey, we need some extra money.
Well, I don't understand. Like, because they had literally called the dad from the landlord's phone before. So, like, why didn't he at some point be like, let me just call this landlord and see how Bea is doing?
Yeah.
I can pay the rent, and I can send money if her mom calls me, but I can't, you know, try whatever I gotta do to talk to Bea herself. I mean, and she could have been dead.
And why didn't he say, like, give me Bea's number so I can call and congratulate her on getting into, you know, college, even if it is, you know, a local community college?
Well, I mean, he literally sent her a phone, which means he probably knew the number for the phone, so why didn't he try it? And when it didn't work, why didn't he freak out on the mom being like, where the fuck is Bea and her phone?
Yeah. You know, but he also lied about having a broken leg and didn't come to her graduation. So she had, like, nobody at graduation.
Which makes it even worse because it's like, this whole time, I've been suffering. You didn't take the chance to figure out what was going on with me. Instead, you also checked out because your literal child was checking out because she was literally being neglected. And your solution was, I'm going to check out too.
Yeah. Until I have to be her father while she's visiting this summer.
Well, like, at this point, she's 18, so who gives a shit?
Yeah, she's done. She raised herself. That's all there is to it. I don't know. And then, you know, Bea and Samson. It was sweet.
Yeah. I mean, it was good.
It was no November 9.
Like, they were able to connect and understand, which is nice, but it was, like, fake the whole time because she thought she was, like, relating to someone opposite of her, and it was actually someone that shared relatively the same history.
Yeah.
That kind of fucked the future up for them, so.
I was really annoyed when she was like, I'm not going to Penn State. I want to stay here and support him. I was like,
that's
Which I get it. You want to support and be there for him, but so you're giving up your whole future?
Once again, every single stereotype you could have picked for a poverty-stricken girl in Kentucky, you got.
Yeah, I'm going to give up everything for a man.
Everything for a man, drugs, trailer, eating, couch stuffing.
That's so bad.
On the front porch.
Yeah. Couch on the front porch.
I thought of something I was going to say, but I forgot.
Rain gives it flavor.
Yeah, moldy flavor. There's a fungus among us.
You got jokes tonight.
Jokes for days. I remember something else I was going to say. So, I don't think Dad and Stepmom are really on the same page at all. Because, like, Bea showed up, Dad's giving her rules and expectations, and then one time she asked to go stay with Samson. 1, she's an adult, so it's none of your fucking business. 2, you can play dad all you want, but you've never really been a dad to her. And 3, Stepmom's like, oh, but Sarah and Marcus spend the night together all the time. And Stepdad's like, the fuck?
Yeah, in my house.
So, like...
Well, I guess it was technically her house.
But, like, Dad and Stepmom aren't even on the same fucking page.
Yeah, and they're like, get on birth control, and...
Yeah, that whole situation was really awkward. They were like, if you're going to do anything, you need to be on birth control, and Stepmom can take you to get on birth control, and then it took, like, 3 weeks for her to get an appointment.
Yeah, it was weird. Which, I mean, that's cool if you're open like that, but...
But clearly Dad didn't want it to be like that, because he was awkward about it, brought it up one time just to tell her to get on birth control, and then he finds out his stepdaughter and her boyfriend are spending the night together, and he has a conniption.
Yeah, and he beat the shit out of Samson.
There's so many red flags in this book. It's silly.
Yikes.
Also, who's gonna live out on, like, this peninsula and commute to Houston every day for work, to and from?
Right?
Like, I get that it's summer, but, like, just go on, like, a vacation for, like, 2 weeks and then go back to Houston. Like, that's...
And they're old enough to, like, live on their own.
That's the point I was kind of getting at, too, with the dad and rules and stuff. Like, even if he had been there for Bea her whole life, she's literally 18. Sarah's 19.
Yeah.
Sarah has already been in college for a year, no parents, and does what she wants, and she survived. So, like, I don't know. I think it's just really weird. Like, they're treating them like they're 12, 13. Or Dad was anyway. Stepmom didn't give a shit.
No, she was like, they're adults. It's fine.
Yeah, because Dad was literally like, no, you are not going to spend a night with the boy next door. And Stepmom was like, why?
Yeah. She's a grown-up now.
Sex is important. We are sex positive here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yikes. And then that night obviously turns to shit. But I knew something was up when he was, like, carrying the backpack around everywhere. And then she was like, why is there no food in the fridge? And he was like, oh, we keep it in this...
locked closet.
Yeah.
That I don't ever get into.
Yeah.
And I keep all the lights off in every house I'm in. Yeah. And I don't want you to touch anything except for the one space I'm in.
We have to keep it clean.
Also...
It was weird.
Biggest coincidence in the world that in the middle of the night, the family that actually lives there would show up in the middle of the fucking night.
Yeah. Because they don't have anything better to do.
That was awkward. Like, sure, let it happen, but, like, it could have went down way differently.
Yeah. Yep. And then that was nice of Marjorie's son to help.
Mm-hmm. Well, he only helped, though, because Bea pestered him, and Marjorie was like, he was a nice boy. But that made me think of 2 more things. One, in the beginning, Bea's like, I'm getting out of this town. I'm independent. I did this all on my own, and no one's going to take credit for it. And then they're like, okay, cool. What are you going to study when you get to college? And she's like, I don't fucking know. So, what? How? I mean, you want credit, and you've prepared for everything except for what you're going to do for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
And then, back to stereotypes, she has one bad night with Samson when her dad punches him.
Yeah.
And the first thing she does is goes to see if her dentist stepmother has prescription drugs somewhere for her to take.
Even though she's genetically
at risk. Like,
susceptible to being
like she's at risk for
drugs.
being an addict, just like her mother. And she also swore she would never do it. And then the first bad day she has,
I know.
She immediately goes searching.
Give me drugs. She's like, I'm giving you one.
And this is the only time.
Ambien. I about said Adderall. I was like, that's not right.
That would have been the exact opposite of what she was after.
Yeah. But yeah, just I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a decent book because it brought up a lot of things, and I think Coho handled some of the bigger things okay. But then you have shit like an addict mother who OD'd, and then you're like, oh, here's this daughter that's going to be super successful and achieve great things on her own, only to potentially become an addict herself because she has one bad day with a potential boyfriend.
Yeah. I didn't like that either.
And then, like, I feel like the things that Coho did address, like, they were only good because they were overcame, however you want to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, they weren't addressed correctly. Like, Bea tells Sarah not to care about what is in her food or the calories she eats, and she's suddenly like, oh, I don't have an eating disorder anymore. Mm-hmm. Because that's how that works.
I know. She's like, you're beautiful. Don't worry about me. And she's like, oh, okay. Cool. That was it.
Bea and her dad have one heart-to-heart, and suddenly he's like dad of the year.
Yeah.
And then stepmom kind of just falls off after the stuff with Samson goes down. Like, you never hear about stepmom ever again.
Yeah, and then you hear about, like, Sarah and Marcus. And they're getting married, expecting a baby. I'm like, she's, like, 23. They not want to, like, live their life a little bit? Not that you can't live your life with
she
kids.
I've got 3. She would have actually been 25, thank you. He went to jail for 6 years.
4.
Was it 4?
Yeah. Remember, because she had just graduated college. She was
never mind. Okay, yeah, Sarah was 23.
But yeah, they were married and having kids.
Yeah, she was pregnant.
I was like...
And they'd already built it. So Marcus wanted to have a business at 19. And by 23, he'd made so much money that they built their own house right on the beach.
Yep.
Because that's how it works.
Because that's realistic. Yeah.
I don't know. I really enjoyed this book when I first read it. And now that we've talked about it, I'm like, oh, it kind of sucks.
I'm sorry.
I think I just wanted another November 9th. So I was like... overlooking the shit.
It was just a little too cliche for me.
Well, like when I got into the nitty gritty, I was like, oh, Coho's stereotyping and kind of being an asshole. So,
yeah, it was just a little too stereotypical for me.
Because in Kentucky, we're all drug addicts that live in trailers, and
we have couches on our porch,
and we don't know what asparagus or steak is.
It's too bougie for us.
And all we gotta do is drink chocolate milk to get over eating disorders. And
sit in a store and drink a chalky milky.
A chalky milk. And eat some donuts. And...
Ho-hos make me... a ho-ho. I don't know.
And then we just give up our entire lives for a boy we just met who's going to jail for the next 4 years.
Yeah. That's it. That sums up Heartbones.
You forgot the best quote from the whole book.
Jesus Christ. Here we go.
Hearts don't have bones, so they can't actually break. But what if we grew bones in our hearts this summer and they can actually break?
I can't.
And then she says...
I wasn't a huge fan.
And
the more we talk, the more I'm like, I actually didn't like this book at all.
And then Bea says, I grew heart bones that summer and they broke. I wonder if Samson did too.
That sounds very Kentucky of you.
I got them heart bones. What about you?
Don't break my heart bone. Okay.
My achy, breaky heart bones.
I'm going to give this book a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm glad I read it, but I'll never read it again, and I'll probably forget about it in the next 3 to 6 months.
It's probably my least, this and Ugly Love are my least favorite books by Coho.
I don't know, and it's not like I dislike the book. Like, it's okay. Like, if I hated it, it would be one thing, but it's like on the same level as It Starts With Us because,
Get the hell out of here.
It Starts With Us was just fucking bland, dude.
It was. As much as I wanted to, love it and praise it, It was boring, but I'm glad that Atlas and Lily ended up, That's another thing. Like, in this book, it was another one of those, like, okay, what happened next?
Yeah, like, he got a house, and she's in law school. She's not a lawyer yet, so what happens?
Yeah, and, like, did her dad and him patch things up?
I mean, she lives in Houston. She's in law school. He has a house now on the beach. So, like, he obviously can't go to Houston because he has to stay at his address because he's on parole.
Yeah.
He has things he has to follow. She has things she has to do. And then we never hear about stepmom ever again. And then, like, what about Sarah and Marcus? How are they going to feel being around Samson again? Because the second that shit went down, they cut ties. They were done.
Yeah, Sarah was like, nah, bro.
So, like, a lot of unanswered questions, but if, Coho wrote up a follow-up like she did with It Ends With Us, then it would not give you any details other than what you would expect to happen, and so it's just bland and could have went without reading it.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Yep, that's it. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5.
I'm going to give your mom a 3 out of 5.
Lame.
You're right, your mom's a 5 out of 5.
So that was Heartbones by
I
Coho.
wonder if Coho has heart bones.
If she didn't, she does now. And they're probably broken because we hate this book.
I mean, clearly she has heart bones. How else do you come up with a quote like that unless you've had your own heart bones broken?
I didn't like this book.
I think I'm going to get that tattooed.
Do it. We'll get it together.
I'm going to get literal.
We'll get 2 halves of a heart bone.
It's like a wishbone, but with a heart.
We'll get them on our arms, like we're from Kentucky.
Oh my god.
Oh, let's get them on our calves.
No, we need to get it on our arm and then have like mom written under it. Nah, calves is more Kentucky though.
Yeah, we'll do our calves, our heart bones on our calves. And we'll get best friends on each leg.
No, it has to be Besties, the number 4, and then on the other leg, the Resties.
EVA. EVA. Besties forever.
There you go.
Because we're from Kentucky, and that's what we do. That's all I have to say about this book.
I mean, that's really all I got. I mean, like, I'm just
lame.
I'm just rambling on now about Heartbones.
I know. So, definitely wasn't my favorite. I don't know if I liked it or Ugly Love the least.
I ain't never read Ugly Love, so I don't know.
I think I probably liked this one the least. Less than Ugly Love. You should read Ugly Love. It was worth a read, but it wasn't my favorite by any means. And if you read it, I'll tell you why. Goodbye.
We'll catch you next chapter, Smuts.
In 5 minutes.